So hello everyone, today we are starting a new course about JavaScript. We'll start and learn more and more about JavaScript, what is it and how actually it works, and why it is a major language when you want to work with web development. So let's dive into this JavaScript. The first question is, what is JavaScript? So JavaScript is actually a scripting language that follows the rules and guidance of ECMA script. It is an organization which manages it, and this is a language that is mainly used in web technologies. When you want to work with web development standards or web development technologies, then you have to use this JavaScript in any place. Like many places, JavaScripts are used nowadays. So JavaScript is currently a very versatile language to work with. JavaScript is the most popular and widely used client-side scripting language, which means that it is the language which is mainly used for client-side scripting when you want to make the client side dynamic and want to add some effects on the client side. Then you will be using JavaScript mainly for DOM manipulation and some other kinds. We'll be diving into DOM manipulation also. First, we'll understand the basic standards or the things which we use in JavaScript. So client-side scripting refers to scripts that run within your web browser. So any program which you want to run into the browser, that is client-side scripting. And JavaScript is designed to add interactivity and dynamic effects to the web pages by manipulating the content returned from a web server. So you can change the content on your web page by using this JavaScript, and you can make the page interactive. So you can also change the content according to this, the data returned from the web server or the backend server. You can accordingly change that also by using this JavaScript. So JavaScript is mainly used for web development and for client-side scripting. What is ECMA? The term which I used in the previous slide, ECMA script. So it is a JavaScript standard meant to ensure the interoperability of web pages across different browsers. JavaScript is officially maintained by ECMA, European Computer Manufacturer Association, as ECMAScript. ECMAScript 8 or ES8 is the latest major version of ECMAScript standard released in 2017. So actually, ECMA is an association, you can say, that manages JavaScript and releases its versions like ES6, ES8, ES7, something like that. So JavaScript is mainly maintained by that ECMA association. Origin of JavaScript. When this JavaScript started, or like how it came into existence. So the JavaScript was originally developed as LiveScript by Netscape in the mid 1990s. So it was launched or created in 1990s. It was later renamed to JavaScript in 1995. So in the 1995, due to popularity of Java, it renamed as JavaScript. Earlier, it was named as LiveScript. So it was since 1990 and became an ECMA standard in 1997. So ECMA adopted it and started managing it and releases its new versions. Now JavaScript is the standard client-side scripting language for web-based applications, so that we have already discussed, and it is supported by virtually all web browsers available today, such as Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Apple Safari, etc. So major browsers which you see nowadays are supporting JavaScript or supporting since it is launched. So JavaScript is the major language which is used in web development or client-side scripting, and nowadays all the browsers are supporting this. Java versus JavaScript. So are they same or different? Actually, there is a huge difference between them, because JavaScript is an object-oriented language and it also has some similarities in syntax to Java programming language, but JavaScript is not related to Java in any way. Like they both are the different kind of thing. JavaScript is a scripting language actually, and Java is an object-oriented or pure object-oriented language, and Java is a new programming language object-oriented programming language, while JavaScript is an OOP scripting language. So this is the like term where they are separating. So Java creates applications that run in a virtual machine or browser, while JavaScript code is run on a browser only. Java code needs to be compiled, while JavaScript code are all in text. They require different plugins. So the Java is using the compiler for compiling its code to machine code, and it runs the code into the virtual machine of that like operating system. So but JavaScript is totally different. It only runs in the browser, not outside the browser. We cannot run JavaScript outside the browser. Yeah, there are Node.js environment, but that is something else. So we'll be talking about in the Node.js part. So JavaScript is mainly used in browsers only. We cannot run it into a local machine. But Java is the like normal programming language, or like the main programming language which normally runs with a compiler, and then we compile that language and then we run that into a local machine by using a compiler. So that is that. So what you can do with JavaScript actually, that's why this is the most important question to consider learning JavaScript. Actually, JavaScript has many benefits. If you can understand these points, then that will be a benefit for you. So learning JavaScript is a major thing because many frameworks are there that will help you in your career, because they are already like built on JavaScript, on top of JavaScript. So you should know JavaScript well. So you can modify the content of a web page by adding or removing elements. That is DOM manipulation. We'll be doing that with JavaScript. So mainly you can change anything on your page by clicking on a button or on hover, or any kind of dynamic or interactivity you can add in your web page by using JavaScript. You can change the style and position of the elements on a web page. You can change the styling like the CSS if you want to make the text color black, or black is already there, text color red, or background color something else, or any kind of style if you want to change by any dynamic nature. Like when I click on that button, this image should be rounded. So these kind of styles or the position of the elements, you can also maintain that from JavaScript. You can monitor events like mouse click, hover, etc., and react to it. So these are called listeners, or like events which happens in the JavaScript. We can track of this event, these events like click, hover, double click. There are many events. We'll be learning that about in DOM chapter. So you can perform and control transition and animation. So you can do transition and animation in JavaScript. You can create alert pop-ups to display info or warning messages to the user. So that we mainly use for showing the alerts or the pop-ups. There are alert functions and showing the like console.warn, console.log, console.error is there. So there are many functions to show the warnings or errors. So you can also perform some operation based on user inputs and display the result. If you want to get the data from the user and accordingly you want to show something to the user on the web page, then you can also do that in this. You can also validate user input before submitting it to the server. So you can also validate whatever the user has typed inside an input field or inside a form. Then after validating, you can send that to server. So you can mainly we do not do validation in the client side. We do it in the backend. But for example, if you want to do that, so you can do that easily with the JavaScript. So JavaScript frameworks. What are JavaScript frameworks actually? So these are the like buzzwords or the famous words you gonna listen now. So JavaScript frameworks are JavaScript code libraries that have pre-written code to use for routine programming features and tasks. It is literally a framework to build website or web application around. So you can create a web application by using JavaScript code libraries, which are generally called JavaScript frameworks. So these are pre-written code, and that helps in the development of an application. There are many features provided by any framework for building particularly an application. So normally we use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and build some static application. or the front-end application, but we can also use a JavaScript framework for that, and that will be a good way to do that. So they can be used as part of an application or as a whole for building the application. So you can completely rely on JavaScript frameworks and build that application. And if you want to create with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can also do that by that. So these are some JavaScript frameworks which you can use, which are Vue.js, AngularJS, jQuery, React, Polymer, Node.js, Amber, Aurelia, Backbone.js, Knockout. So these are some frameworks which you can learn after learning the JavaScript or after understanding the concept of JavaScript. So this is what I wanted to tell you in this video. We'll be understanding some more JavaScript in the future videos. Thank you for watching this. Bye bye.